And we're live.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Spa
Cheers
weekend.
to everybody. Spa, Stella,
Yes.
as usual. Let's see. Spa, always a nice racetrack to come to. Very unpredictable this year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What was your big surprise in qualifying?
I would say at least I thought there would be a chance that we might see a new winner based on Max's penalty.
Yeah.
However, that was not meant to be.
Nope.
But, the usual suspects at the top, and I think Lewis has put in some really good efforts let me go back to Silverstone.
He has, yes.
That's been positive. And man, you can't help but feel bad for Piastri getting his progress stopped today on kind of an unfortunate deal. But
that first corner is always a trouble spot for that racetrack. It's iconic, that first corner. How many accidents there have been in the first. And honestly, I mean, I don't think Sainz actually saw him because of the halo and everything they have in the car. You really can't see who's next to you, which is one of my big pet peeves versus the old kind of cars without the halo.
Right.
I get the safety, but at least you saw everything. You could actually wave to them and shake hands.
So you don't think you don't think any penalty was warranted?
Flip them off,
Right. You could.
You could.
They probably still do.
They do. Of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do.
Yeah. Yeah, but I did feel bad for him because man, they had it going, and then in the sprint race,
Yes.
boy, strong performances all around, and then just a racing incident, right?
Yeah. And the sprint races, for me at least, seems to be deceiving in terms of the pace of cars. Being that short of a race, I don't know why that is, but they seem to, different cars perform better for sprint races outside of their usual suspects. Like the Red Bull will always be fast sprint or normal, it doesn't matter. But like a McLaren or maybe even a AlphaTauri will all of a sudden be fast enough to be up, or Gasly.
Yeah.
Gasly was right up there
And he's
too,
normally
right?
terrible in
And
the
he
sprint.
I mean, so the sprint race to me doesn't really do very much. It's like a big giant testing session or a big giant, qualifying. But I mean, I think the surprise of it was that Ferrari was fast enough to be in the top five. To be on the front row, and Lewis did really well. I think Perez did an okay job.
Yeah.
How much he was 4/10 slower. That's still a long ways off.
It is. It is. And George Russell was kind of non-existent this weekend.
And last weekend too.
And last weekend too.
I don't know. He's really dipped down in his performance.
Yeah. Even while that team seems to be coming up, his
Yes,
performance
he's
is
like
going the other
backwards.
way. Yeah.
And the car wasn't. If you watched him drive it, either he was overdriving it or the car itself was not set up to
How
his
do you
liking.
overdrive a car?
You can overdrive. Oh yeah. That's a very common mistake among race drivers, because you want to. In the old days, like in the 80s, you could actually you could carry the car around the track, meaning that back in the 80s, for example, the F1 cars, it was 50% driver ability and 50% car. Okay, when the carbon fiber cars came in, when technology came in, the driver became less and less important. The car was much more important. And so back in the day, you could carry a car around just by your abilities. Now, when you try to do that, you tend to overuse the tires, you overuse the brakes, you overuse the gas, and the constant sliding and drifting beyond a certain point is detrimental to your lap time.
Yep.
And so you got to control that to a certain degree angle of slip and drifting, and then you're going to be fast beyond that point. And I think he's just overdriving it. He's so frustrated. He's trying to get more out of the car than there is, instead of relaxing and saying, "Okay, tell me how much you want me to do."
Wouldn't he be at this point in the season? He knows what that car is.
Yeah.
Forget updates or whatever. But
they do. No, it changes. It's not like that.
Okay.
Every track is different. The car behaves very different from track to track, unless you have a Red Bull, which is great on all tracks. But a Mercedes that has been terrible for a long time. I mean, not terrible for their standard.
For their standard, right?
That will behave very differently. And when you see somebody like Hamilton, who has a world of experience over Russell. He lets the car come to him instead of forcing the car to do something that the car does not want to do.
Right.
And that's where Russell doesn't have the experience. And if you think back, Lewis was there when Russell first joined him. Lewis was nowhere to be found. He was so frustrated with the car. He was overdriving the car, and he was not. This frustration makes you brake too late, get on the gas too early, slide through the corners because you're trying to take more speed, you know, and then all that works against you.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you would think it'd be great,
You would think so,
but not in these cars.
Right.
You have
Yeah.
to be
So
very
he's
precise.
so George has gone down a bit, and then we were talking earlier about Aston Martin.
Yeah, you know, so I don't know. I mean, Alonso, Stroll. I think some of the cars are going to perform better on some tracks than other tracks, and again, unless you're driving a Red Bull. So to me, either the two scenarios: the Red Bull, the Aston Martin is not good on these tracks that we've been at recently, or the Aston Martin team has not spent the money to update the car and bring updates to the track like other teams have, so the other teams have caught up with them and surpassed them. So that
Which would
happens.
be a surprise.
That happens frequently in racing, where especially smaller budget teams will spend a lot of money on preseason, spend a lot of money on the first part of the season, then they run out of money, and then they hope that preseason and first part of the season, that those advances will keep them competitive throughout the rest of the season. But these seasons are so long now that kind of thing backfires.
They reach an internal budget cap.
Right, they do.
Yeah.
You know, and don't forget, this is not a bottomless money tree they have at Aston Martin.
No.
You know, it's not like a Ferrari or a Red Bull or I mean they have more money than they can know what to do with. You know.
Yeah. So I do have to ask you about Nick DeVries. What's your opinion on that? Getting sacked before the summer break.
Rightly so.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, unfortunately, I mean, it's a tough business.
Right. And was that decision to put him in that car based on that one race in Monza where he filled in?
Yeah,
and
I never understood why he would do that.
Yeah.
He, honestly, I mean, the Formula E that he was racing, all that, I'm not sure he was ready. I don't know about his talent, but a lot of this has to do with how ready are you.
Right.
As a driver, how many hours have you done? And the Logan Sargent is an example of that. I just don't think he was ready.
Not ready. Right. It's a different intensity. It's a different speed. Everything's different, right?
Yeah. I mean, he was, what was he? He was a 1 second off his teammate
Yes.
in qualifying. That's not a good sign.
That's 1.2.
That's a Mick Schumacher versus Magnussen.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's just Mick is another one I think just wasn't ready.
Not
just
ready.
needed more time. And you only get one shot at it.
Right, and I don't think people make this out to be a Red Bull thing where there's, they have this culture where it happened to Gasly, it happened to Albon.
They do have that culture.
They do,
but-
they do. But DeVries, that's on him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a performance-based decision.
And Albon, I don't think was ready either.
No. Right.
He is a very quick driver, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you're going to be up front in Formula
No.
One. You have to be ready for
No.
all of it. I mean, that's one thing I totally agree with the commentators on is the level of maturity and preparedness of a Oscar Piastri is impressive at his age. Compared to an Albon when he first started, or a Sargent, or a Gasly, or
Schumacher.
they crumbled.
Yep.
They crumbled in the, and I, this, I'm not a Red Bull fan because of that. I think they are a puppy mill that just,
They are.
chews them up and spits them out without any regard for their actual talent. I guarantee you that Helmut Marko says to Chris Horner and all the other people there that, hey, I'm not operating a driving school. This is you either sink or you swim.
Right. It's not a charity either.
This is not charity. This is not, you either perform or you don't.
Yeah.
And other teams don't take that attitude. They let people develop, and they say, okay, you weren't quite ready yet. Let me put you with this other team and get you ready. you know.
Right.
So
Right. That's so another question, kind of an off the track but on the track. The shakeup at Alpine with Otmar
yep,
mutually
Sapnauer,
agreeing to part ways,
yeah.
plus his top two guys.
You know, I think he did a great job with Force India when
Yeah.
they first came
Oh, yeah.
on, right? And you know, without being there, I have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard to judge because it is a team sport.
Yeah.
At this level, there's hundreds and hundreds of people, and to blame one person, you know, I mean, the good good team managers are a breed apart, just like the great drivers are.
Sure, they absolutely are. So then, my follow-up question would be: does a guy like Binotto get another chance?
I don't think so.
Or do you?
I don't think so. He didn't have what it took either.
No, he didn't.
Mm-mm.
No, he didn't.
Nope.
I mean, he was no better than Arriva Bene.
Nope. Yep. And we talked about it in the previous ones. You know,
Mhm.
the all French teams, the all Italian teams. It's just I'm not sure that's the right combination of people.
Right.
You need some. The Brits, unfortunately or fortunately, are very good at Formula One.
Yep.
And they have a long history of teaching people the right things.
Mhm.
And I'm a big believer in them. And so you need a lot of people from Great Britain on your team to make it work.
Give the guy at Williams a couple years.
Yep. Yeah, I hope he has it. Zach Brown is another one where I had my doubts for a long time about his ability to pull a team together and be the team principal. And this year, this surprising form all of a sudden, which could be just the tracks we're at. We'll see in the next races if they're going backwards or if they keep that pace. The jury's still out.
Mm-hmm.
He's operating a very
much so
prestigious team like Ferrari,
Mm-hmm.
but is struggling mightily.
And has been for a long time.
And has been for a much too long time.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, Toto Wolff would be gone by now.
Oh, right.
Mercedes would be like, no,
Not happening. No.
we're not spending billions of dollars.
They
for
gave
you to
him
lose.
that 1 year, which was it, 2012? Or
Yep.
where they were transitioning. Okay. And then if they had won championship after championship,
Mercedes
wouldn't have been around.
Mercedes doesn't fuck around.
no, sir.
I mean, they are.
No, sir.
That board of directors at Mercedes is hardcore.
Yep.
They
Who's
are
the guy
German.
with the glasses?
Yeah, Doctor. Forgot his name. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
They're very hardcore. They are budget oriented. They're money people. They're performance. ROI.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not like Ferrari where it's just a religion. And they're like, okay, we'll spend the money no matter if we're dead last or not.
A lot of hope going on there too.
Yeah, of course, it's all opium
Yeah.
at Ferrari.
Yeah.
I'm still disappointed with Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, sure.
Disappointed with
On the whole, or this year?
just on the whole.
Yeah, me too.
I'm disappointed in Sergio Perez.
Yeah.
I am disappointed with Bottas.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But I don't know that Alpha. I don't know.
What kind of resources do they have? Though they just do
I
the
don't
same thing.
know.
They're no different than Haas.
They're a very small team, yeah. Money wise, they're a very small team. I can't imagine they have a big budget, just like Williams.
What about? We kind of did get into a mid-year recap. Oh well. What about a guy like Yuki? Third year in F1.
Yeah, he needs
Had
to
his teammate sacked.
he needs to show more.
Yeah.
But it's with a car like that, his teammate showed him up last weekend.
Mhm.
This weekend, not so much, but he's definitely a fast driver. But again, being fast is a prerequisite. It's not. It doesn't get you to the.
He's
to the
not near
front.
ready for a senior Red Bull seat.
No, and I'm not sure he ever will be.
No.
He's too erratic to,
Right.
off and on, and that's what team owners don't want to see, is that you're hot one race, cold the next.
Right.
And that's been the problem with Max's teammates.
Mhm.
There'd be good couple of races, and there'd be nowhere. And
Terrible.
that kind of shit, you can't have that.
No.
You're spending too much money. Lewis and Russell are a perfect pairing.
Mhm.
Frankly, I'm super impressed with Lance Stroll.
Oh, sure.
This year, I'm very impressed, and I believe that has to do with Fernando taking
No
him
doubt.
around the track, saying,
Why-
"Do this, do that."
Why didn't Seb get that out of him?
Because Seb is arrogant, and he's like, I'm not a driving instructor.
Yeah,
That was
no.
his response.
Either
I
you can drive-
guarantee you. He's like, I'm not giving you my secrets.
Right.
But Fernando's like, I don't care.
Yeah, no. I'm just glad to be racing. Here we
Well,
are.
and when push comes to shove, believe me, he will beat Lance.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean, there's
No,
going to
no,
be
no
very
doubt.
few times where Lance can beat him.
Yeah.
He still has something in reserve.
Well,
you know.
was it at Silverstone where he said, "Tell Lance I'm not going to pass him."
No.
There was
right.
3 or 4 laps
Right,
left.
and that comes with a lot of experience and knowing that does it matter if I'm 9th or 10th? Does it really matter?
no.
You know?
Mm-mm.
I mean, in the scheme of things, if it was 1 and 2, he would not have that response.
No, sure.
If
very
he was
true.
leading him, or if Stroll was leading him and Stroll was
Yeah.
first and he was second, oh no, the knife would be between his teeth and he would be like, let's
Yes.
let's
Yes,
go,
indeed.
let's go.
Yes,
but back
indeed.
there, who cares?
Right. Right.
I mean, I love that. I think that's the right attitude.
Yep.
Be a team
I agree.
and
I
teach
agree.
together. You're going to get stronger.
Right.
If he can bring Lance up to his level, that's what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
and then
But
the
these
next race,
drivers-
he may need him to defend for something.
And I think Hamilton does that with Russell.
Yeah.
He didn't
Great.
do that with Nico because Nico was immediately fast,
Mm.
and he knew that it was competition.
From
You know, and
Yeah.
when Russell gets there, he will be again. The elbows will come out.
Mhm.
You know, Max. I don't think Max does that with his teammates at all.
Not so much, I don't think.
No.
No. He will let them know in a public way to make people think that he cares about them, like he did with Perez 2 years ago. But
Yeah, no.
no.
But behind the scenes, it's like, don't
Yeah.
look at my stuff. You
Right.
don't get to
No,
look
no,
at
no.
my stuff.
This is my side.
Yeah,
Um,
because for all of you out there that may not know, but there's so many sensors on the car. As a driver, you study you do a lot of, you know, just like in football, you watch a lot of tape, but you look at a lot of graphs and you look at different things, a million different things, and what makes Max faster on every lap than me. You will have to look at a lot of different graphs and analyze them. Now, the graphs are not accessible between teammates unless they agree they're accessible.
Mm.
So in a Max and Sergio, they may not be allowed to look at each other's graphs.
And what kind of data is on the graph?
It's on the basic level. It's steering input.
Okay.
It's throttle input.
Mhm.
How much brakes.
Mhm.
It's the line on the track. It is G forces. It is cornering speeds. It's entry speeds. It's speeds throughout.
Mhm.
So you can see when somebody takes more speed through the corner,
Mm.
or they brake earlier than you but take more speed through the corner. You know, and so there's a lot of variation you can do with the throttle and the brakes and the steering input, and how much you make the car slide versus, you know, how do you keep them on the curb or not on the curb? You know, do you stay off the curb or on the curb?
Yep.
All those things. Like I said, there's a million different things you look at, and the sum of those parts make up a fast lap. And so as drivers, if you're allowed to, and if you're open with each other, then you look at each other's graphs and go, wow, you really do. How are you doing this in this corner,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's where Fernando and Lance work together. And Fernando looks at Lance's charts and says, Lance, you're losing time over here. Try this.
Mhm.
You know, but a Max is probably not
Yeah.
allowing Sergio to see what he's doing.
Right.
Senna didn't allow Prost to see
No, no,
what
no.
he was doing.
Oh, he was getting
Right?
he was getting his own parts from Honda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the level it gets to when you have drivers like that. But when you're fighting for 9th and 10th place, does it really matter?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
At that point, you want to make Lance's dad happy.
Exactly.
You know, and you know.
Sign the check.
Yeah.
What last driver pairing to ask about, kind of mid-season evaluation? Alpine, the 2 Frenchmen, 2 DNFs in a row.
Yeah. Ocon's fast.
He's
no
very
doubt.
fast, and he's experienced.
Yeah.
This is his 7th or 8th season.
Yeah, but he had a gap in between then.
Oh, he did.
right?
Okay, yeah.
Didn't he like come out of like a year of not racing?
Maybe, yeah, because he was with what, Force India or Renault or somebody.
Somebody like that, and
Yeah.
then he comes from nothing. I mean, that's
Yeah.
one of the drivers who really has come up the ranks with nothing and on pure talent, no money, and that's very impressive. But again, you have to develop as a driver. And I honestly, frankly, not to get off the Alpine track, but Lando, I think, has stopped developing as much as I would hope he would have. I think when he first came, we have a saying in German, it's the Überflieger, it's a high flyer. And he came into the sport as a high flyer, as the next Max Verstappen or whatever you want, the next Michael Schumacher, and then he kind of just plateaued out. And I don't know. I think I feel the same way kind of about Ocon. And Pierre Gasly is just a hot mess in the head.
He's really not too much different from Yuki.
No, he's a hot. It's up here. It's mental. It's a hot mess mentally. Daniel Ricciardo just happy-go-lucky, and that doesn't always work either.
Right.
But there's drivers like that just. Russell doesn't really have that, although he had his ups and downs this season where he was super frustrated, and you could tell he was frustrated. Charles doesn't. Charles had that for a while. I think he's let go of being hot and cold. I think there are a lot of drivers who do that. It's hard to stay at that level. And that's what makes Lewis and people like Max and people like Senna and people like Schumacher makes them special, is because they can stay at that level without getting hot and cold.
Right.
Oh, they bring it every time, and that's rare. It's very, 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 very rare.
Yep, no doubt. Let's get to the Grand Prix.
Yes. So unfortunately, it didn't rain more.
No, it rained for 4 laps, something like that.
So it wasn't even rain. That's like in Spa. It's like it's like somebody was sweating in front of me and it hit my visor. Spa, it's crazy how it rains there. I mean, it's like a monsoon. There's the sprint race. I had all empathy for them not to start racing that, because that track is incredibly dangerous in the dry, let alone when it's inches of rain on the track. It's just the cars hydroplane so quickly. I was explaining that to a friend this morning, actually, or yesterday, watching the sprint race. I said, driving these cars in the rain, and I think we've talked about that before, is the same power to weight ratio as driving your car, any car, on ice. So when you drive your car on snow and ice next time, that's what it feels like to drive a Formula One car in the rain. So you may, it doesn't look that way, but it is incredible. It's like
the lack of grip is that
most of the time you're literally not knowing if you're gonna make it through the corner, when it rains like that.
Put the spray on top of that.
Yeah, you can't see a damn thing. No.
What do you look at?
I used to look sideways. I used to look to the side.
Okay.
And so part of a racing driver's journal, so to speak, on every track is to actually walk the track or use a moped or whatever to get around the track and kind of see where things are. So if you look out the side of the cockpit, you could see the braking points where you need it to be. And you don't see a damn thing when you follow a car. Like literally nothing. I can't explain it. I literally, like, turn your windshield wipers off next time on the freeway when it rains.
No.
And then speed up to 150 and see what you see
in traffic.
And that's the spray of the tires are displacing so much water. They're doing it so quickly it evaporates into little tiny droplets of vapor that just hangs in the air. On a track like that where it's surrounded by trees, Hockenheim was another very famous track, and the rain was almost impossible to see because the water would just hang in the air. It wouldn't go anywhere. So you were driving in this constant fog, a cloud of rain, and so it's very, very difficult. So
nearly impossible is what you're saying.
Watching that, if you've never done it, you can't appreciate what they were doing.
Yeah,
I mean,
understood. In years and years and years of watching, I've never understood how they can really mimic a dry race and stay on the line, but not at those speeds, when they can't even see.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
you take your cues from the side,
Right.
from looking to each side. You're feeling your way around the track too. As a driver, you learn to feel other cars, and you feel walls, and you feel. I mean, it's your subconscious brain is an incredibly powerful tool that can, when you talk to a baseball pitcher who can close his eyes and throw a fastball to the exact same point without even looking, right? It's your muscle memory is incredible when you get to that level.
Wow.
And so just from the timing in your subconscious without thinking about it, in 3 seconds you're getting from this corner to the breaking point of the next corner. Your subconscious knows that. In 3.25 seconds you're going to be there.
Right.
And so you hit the brake and you're exactly at the right spot.
God, that's
but you have
incredible.
to trust, you have to turn this frontal cortex off and just not even listen. No monkeys on your shoulder talking to you.
Yeah.
As a driver, you can't have that. If you do that, you're going to lift off the throttle and take it easy and be afraid. And so you have to turn that off, that monkey inside your head, and just trust that your body knows what to do.
That's probably why the greatest drivers are also the greatest in the wet.
Yeah. Yep.
Most of them.
It's a very special skill, and all the British drivers have a huge advantage over the rest of the Europeans that are racing.
Yep.
They race in the rain from the time they're 3 years old, whereas like growing up in Germany, even though it rains a lot, I didn't race that much in the rain. I actually would go out to the track on weeks where it was raining, and I would practice because I just didn't have enough seat time in the rain.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
yeah.
So yeah, Grand Prix, Max finished in P1, came from P6 after his gearbox penalty.
And last year he came from P14.
Right.
Right.
And he continues to make it look like he's
Effortless.
on a different race.
He is. He has a different car. He could have a different car than Perez too.
He could.
Just little minor tweaks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Doesn't take much to give him an edge over Perez, and they want Perez to be second, but they probably don't want him to challenge Max. So they tweak it to the point where Perez doesn't know. I mean, I'm being a conspirator.
Well, I'm sure
conspiracy
it's happened before.
theorist at this point.
Yeah.
But
it's happened before.
I've been in teams like that.
Yep.
Where they dialed my car back just a hair, so I wouldn't compete with the number one driver in the team, who brought all the money, who brought all the fame, and all that stuff. So,
Yep.
it happens.
Yep, for sure. So Sergio did get P2.
Yep.
Charles with a decent drive to hang on to P3.
He kind of had a very quiet weekend.
He did.
Didn't make any mistakes, which
Nope.
is good because he makes too many mistakes.
He does. Yep.
And I just want Ferrari to be in third place. I wish that him and Sainz could be third and fourth,
Right.
like every race.
I think there's some tension in that garage.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think so too. I think
Yeah.
I think it's Ferrari is such a political animal already. I can't even imagine driving for a Ferrari.
Because of the outside pressure, the
The internal politics.
walk on eggshells a little bit.
Yeah, and just it's like a pressure cooker.
Right.
I don't think any other team drivers face that pressure.
You don't just have the pressure from the manufacturer. You have the pressure from the country.
The whole country.
The whole country.
I mean, Lewis had that for a while, where
Yeah.
the British country was
yeah.
like, come on, let's go. But Ferrari is like religion.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
no,
it's
yeah. No, I think that's. I mean, there are children in Ferrari that they don't want to be a driver; they just want to be a mechanic
yes.
for
Oh
Ferrari.
yeah. They'll clean the tires.
Oh
if you
yeah.
want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Lewis in P4, another decent drive, right?
He did the best he could with that car. I was surprised that he was slower than the Ferrari.
Yeah.
I thought he would catch him.
I did too. I did too.
And he was catching him, but 2.5 seconds was like he got stopped, and and maybe it's turbulence from the car, which, by the way, if anybody can answer this for me, why don't they? It might be a technical issue in terms of actually doing this, but 90% of this field spends 90% of their race behind another car. Okay, so why, as a team, would you not spend some of your wind tunnel hours with one car in front and another car in the back to see how you could get closer? What tweaks do you have to make so that you could actually get closer to the car?
So in traffic, you have an advantage.
So yeah, I mean, and maybe there's lots of things I don't know.
How many teams can afford to run the wind tunnel?
Right. Well, that's number one problem, and they get limited time in the wind tunnel
Yeah.
because of budget issues. So,
Right.
but I just found that fascinating. I thought to myself,
That's
you know,
a great point.
really, you should spend more time trying to figure out how can I follow a guy without losing so much time
Right.
or downforce
Right.
or get the cars all squirrely.
Right. And then have some balance where you can catch him in more open air, but then when you get into a little turbulence,
Yeah.
you don't lose that much.
And the cars are any race car really. When you follow somebody, it's very violent. It's incredible what goes on behind a race car. It's a very strange feeling. You get to the point as a driver where you can actually see the air, where the air becomes like water, where you can actually see the air coming off the car because you're feeling it. Your other senses are telling you the air is coming off and it's buffeting you in a certain way and if you angle the car a little differently, you can get through that, pierce through that, and just it's a very strange thing to follow a race car at speed and feel that.
Do you think the halos changed that?
Oh yeah, the whole thing. I mean, they made the back wing different so that you could follow closer to get less turbulence back there. But anyway.
Yeah.
And then we had Alonso right behind Hamilton, which, you know, again, he, you know, after the sprint race mistake, you know, he had something to prove.
He did.
He did.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was lingering in 9th and 10th and then ended up getting it to 5th. So really good driving in a great season for him, right?
He had a bit between his teeth today.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
No doubt. Little giddy up.
George, didn't really pay much attention to him in the race.
No.
I just noticed that his car was very unstable to me. It didn't look like he was either overdriving it or his car was
You
just
mentioned
not
the
set up
overdriving. Yeah.
the way he wants it. You
Yeah.
know?
Right.
So
Well, Max mentioned it. I think it was in regards to Charles when they informed that his tires were falling off, and he said, "Yeah, it doesn't surprise me because he keeps drifting."
no, he was referencing Piastri.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Piastri was again. He was carrying the car around in the sprint race. He was carrying the car around the track.
That's what it was. Yeah.
And he shot the tires. And again, it's inexperience, but he wanted so desperately to be up front.
No, he did.
He did whatever he could, and I don't blame him. I would have done the same thing.
I like the mindset that he has as far as just no hesitation.
Nope, it's a sprint race.
Right.
Lay it all out on the line.
Yeah.
You know, but he was sliding so much in that, and that's what I said at the beginning. It's you can't overdrive the car.
Right.
It's detrimental.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then Lando down there in P7.
Dry track.
Yeah.
Everybody talked about how much wing they had on, so you know they were set up for a wet race.
So really a strong result for them.
I think given the setup they had, I think 7th place is a win.
Yep.
You know, it's just too bad that Piastri couldn't be there too with him.
Right.
He probably would have been 8th. You know,
I think so.
they would have been
I think
right
so.
behind each other.
Yep. And then Esteban in P8.
Esteban had the bit between his teeth today.
He did. Yeah, really good drive.
Great overtakes, right? I mean, he was really
for
like
sure.
outside and overtaking. I loved watching it.
Yeah,
it was great.
that was really good racecraft going on. And then Lance, you mentioned good drive in P9.
Yeah.
Yuki in P10. Good for him to get some points.
That's
been a
great.
rough first half to the season for him.
Even last year was rough. I mean, let's be honest. AlphaTauri is nowhere where it should be. I'm surprised AlphaTauri as a sponsor is still on board.
Well, well, they've got half a season left, right?
Yeah.
And I mentioned last year, I think Pierre and Alpha last year was the most disappointing driver in team combination. I mean, just really did not bring anything. And then Valtteri in P12.
Oh,
How long can that continue when you're a guy who was on a top team, winning constructors championships?
I would find something else to do.
Yeah. Why? I don't.
It's just not worth your time. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you can be a Kimi Räikkönen with that attitude of just I love driving.
Sure.
I'm not sure that's Bottas.
No, I don't think so.
You know?
Doesn't seem to be.
Hey, honestly, I'm more of a Kimi guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't like him, but you know, if I was in his shoes, I'd just keep driving because I love driving.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Yep, I agree. Guan Yu Zhou,
Yeah.
same situation. Have you seen progress from him? Talking about younger guys.
He's matured, but I think he's had his time.
Yeah.
Just like Gasly, and again, I mean, we talked about this last year. It's just I don't understand. There's so many talented drivers out there in the world. Why are these guys still driving? They had 3 years or 2 years. You know, 2 years is plenty of time for you to prove yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and as a team, you need at some point you need to say, I need to try different people, see how they
Well,
work.
it's like in American sports, or more sports more prevalent in America. NFL, you got 2 years.
Yeah.
The average NFL career is 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. They need to get a look at some of these other guys.
Now, some of these guys bring a ton of money.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, so, you know,
Yeah.
you buy your way in. Okay, that's fine. That's
Sure.
fine.
That's why they've always had pay drivers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of them are paid drivers. So,
Yeah.
Kevin Magnussen, I mean, it's not talent. It's
Right.
it's they have enough talent.
They have
but
enough
They
talent.
also have enough money.
Right. Stroll's the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Daniel, oh man,
Yeah.
the most liked person on the grid, and I hope he has a good rest of the year and can
Yeah.
prove himself. But again, it's a mental game, and he mentally, yeah,
See, I thought, all that pressure at McLaren, or maybe not pressure, but the expectation was certainly there. There's zero, really.
and that's why he can do what he does.
So maybe he'll do,
As soon as the pressure comes, he'll shut down.
and he runs
Again.
away from conflict, which
He-
I don't respect him for that.
No, he's just he's afraid of success. You
Mhm.
know, he doesn't think he deserves it. I think deep down inside, it's the gap in the gain, right? It's he doesn't feel like he deserves to be there, but he puts that out as a conscious thought that he does deserve to be there.
Mhm.
But deep down inside of himself, he thinks, "Am I really good enough to be here?" Imposter syndrome,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
And that's when you see people like falter at that level.
Gotcha.
Just because they're afraid to succeed, because they don't believe they deserve it
Yep.
to succeed.
Interesting.
Um,
Sounds like a separate podcast.
yeah, that would be a psychoanalysis of,
I love it.
Of Logan Sargent. I don't even know Logan Sargent. I'm sad to say, as an American citizen, that I paid no attention to Logan Sargent.
I have no
Coming
idea.
up.
No.
I watched some F2 races and I saw him racing, but I never really
Yep.
dug into who is he and is he good enough, and I have no clue.
Yeah. No. How do you think he's done so far? As expected?
In a crappy car like that, it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard to judge talent.
Do you think he'll get
Your
another season?
teammate's the only one you can
Yeah.
measure it against, right?
Right. But his
But
teammates,
his teammate is vastly more experienced than he
Vastly.
is. So,
his
yeah.
his teammate was a Red Bull driver.
yeah, I know. He had a shot,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. Right.
And a lot of these young drivers, they die on the vine. You
Yeah.
know, they die in teams like Williams and
Mhm.
go away and fade away. And, you know, Nico Hulkenberg.
Oh my gosh. What are we doing here?
He's like a rash that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It's like he never stops. He just keeps on peddling, you know, that he's a good driver, and he's a good driver. But again, he had his chances too. He's been in the sport
definitely
for a
has.
long ass time. And all I can think of is that Günther Steiner said, we need a development driver. We need somebody who can develop this car because Kevin ain't doing it.
Kevin ain't
and Mick certainly wasn't experienced enough to do it.
No.
And we talk about that too. Sometimes teams rise and fall by the fact that they don't have drivers that can actually develop the car forward.
So if he was developing that car, as you say,
Yeah,
when would we see improvement? This year or next year?
next year.
Okay.
It takes a very long time.
Yeah. He only has a 1-year contract, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. They could just be using him for feedback.
I like the idea of using him in that.
Yep.
And he can still race.
Yep.
And he still has
Yep.
enough talent to get certainly in the points, and maybe he can finally get a podium. But
And that's my worry with Sainz and Leclerc, that they don't have the development side of it.
right, they just want everything done and say, okay, I'm here to drive.
Yeah, I'm here to sit in the car and be fast. Oh, well, got to develop the car. You got to keep developing the car, and that's
Is Lewis a development guy?
I think he actually is.
Yeah, more than
and
people think.
I think Russell too.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
I
agree.
I don't know that Lando is.
No.
I think Fernando learned after the Ferrari debacle. He learned to become more development oriented.
Right.
Vettel was not a development driver.
Really?
Bottas could be.
That seems almost Germanic of him,
Yeah.
because Nico Rosberg certainly was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Max is to a certain degree too, because
Yeah.
he has enough seat time
Yep.
in everything he's raced.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I'm not sure about Lando,
Yeah.
if he has that.
So how? Let's just say, hypothetically, Lando gets in a top 3 team seat. He gets in a Red Bull seat or a Mercedes seat or a Ferrari seat. How does he act? How does he
The only
change?
he will be fast, no doubt. The key question is how will he deal with the pressure?
Mm-hmm.
Because up to this point, he had nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose. He's had no pressure, right?
He's driving a shitty car around. Nobody expects anything from you,
Right.
so you can do whatever you want
Right.
and feel no pressure and just be yourself. When the pressure comes, you either are yourself or you're not, and that's where the drivers are different.
Yep.
That's where a Verstappen is different than a Perez.
Mm-hmm. Or any of his teammates at Red Bull.
Because what you believe in the core of you is what then comes out.
Right. You get that gets exposed.
Yeah. Max has been leading races for,
Since he
2
was,
decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes a very big difference mentally. Lewis led races for 2 decades before he got to Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a very big difference mentally.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know?
That's who he is.
Yeah.
Race winner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are we off to next?
We are off
After a break.
to the Dutch Grand Prix.
Okay.
So we will be off to the Netherlands next. Let's see, where are we? What is all this?
I don't know.
We're looking up online. Hang on. Next is the Dutch Grand Prix, August 25th. So a whole month off, being good Europeans.
Yep.
You get 4 weeks off,
Yep. August.
which I'm glad they instituted that because everybody out there doesn't realize how hard they work.
Sure.
I mean, it is a brutal schedule to be traveling all over the world. You just look at some of those guys, like some of even the team principals. When you see their age and you look at them, it's like politicians. A lot of politicians age very quickly because their schedule is so incredible, hectic, and travel.
Right.
And travel will age you like nothing else.
If
So-
you were an F1 team member, driver, or
Yeah.
otherwise, what do you do on your summer break?
Nothing F1 related. I'd be at the beach.
Go to Mykonos or somewhere like that?
I'd be like,
Yeah.
let's party and have a good time and
for
sleep
sure.
all day and not have a care in the world because that pressure cooker will come back and you have all kinds of you don't have there's no room for error on anybody's part in any of those teams.
Right.
And that's what people don't understand is it's the amounts of money involved and the pressure to perform is I don't think there's a sport like it.
No, there's not.
Any other sport
There's
like
not. That's
it. Was that many people are under that much pressure.
right. And there's that much at stake.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
I don't think
I still love the quote from 2000 or 2001 when Tiger Woods was at his peak, and somebody asked him if he thought he was the best athlete in the world, and he matter-of-factly said, "Well, no way. Michael Schumacher is the best athlete in the world."
Right. Well, that was also a money thing. I think Michael was earning way more money than Tiger was
probably
at the time,
so.
with all
Probably
his endorsements and
so. Oh,
everything
gosh,
else. Yeah, so Zandvoort is going to be it's such a beautiful racetrack.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Is this
race.
the one with the banking? Yeah.
The Tarzan corner.
Tarzan Corner, yes, of
very
course.
very famous, and it's super fun to drive. I mean, the ups
Yeah.
and downs is topography, and it's right on the beach, so the
Yep.
sand's constantly blowing, so every lap feels different.
Okay.
It's a very challenging track.
Yep.
Surprisingly, the weather's usually good.
It's a short track, isn't it?
It's a very short
Yeah.
track, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's a very fun track.
Okay.
It's just a lot of. I don't think overtaking is very easy on that track, but there are a couple of, and it also has that. So Tarzan is the corner after the long straight, the front straight is a long bank corner, but then there's another bank corner, a really short hairpin corner
Yep.
that's super banked.
Yeah.
And the car, I mean, when the car goes through that, it's just like it like rockets out of that. It's such a great feeling in a race car.
I love it.
I don't know why they don't have more corners like that in Formula
They
One.
don't at all.
Because it's almost like growing up in Germany, we had these motorcycle guys that would be in a drum, and they were literally racing in a drum, and the walls of the drum were vertical. So they would start, and then the walls, as they build up speed, the walls would come up, and eventually they would be like this, and they would literally go
Wow.
like the bike was here, and they would just go around and around. And it's like that when you're in a corner like that, just kind of pushes you in and then just spits you out, and you just go flying out of the corner. It's so
Very
great,
cool.
so great.
Very cool.
And then what are we after that? And we're on to Italy.
Ah, yes. Monza, September 3rd.
And then we do the boring ones like
Yeah,
Singapore. Yeah, okay.
Yep. Then pretty soon we'll be in Austin, Mexico, Brazil, Vegas. Maybe
Love
Vegas will have some banking.
Vegas, man. Yeah, let's see what that's all
Yeah, it's going to be wild. Night race in Las Vegas.
about. Mayhem.
Wow.
Only in
amazing.
America.
Only in America.
I wonder what
Gotta-
happened in New Jersey Grand Prix, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was
supposed
going to
one in
be
New
it was going to be a
Jersey?
street race in New York City.
The mafia put a stop
Yeah,
to
I think that got. I just don't think they can shut the city down for a week.
Well, they probably could, but there are too many hands to be greased.
Oh,
You know, it
that's
gets
for
too
sure.
expensive very quickly.
Very
'cause they have
quickly.
unions and all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Las Vegas? No.
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 No,
It's
there's-
still mafia.
there's
but
only
it's
one
no
person.
unions. Don't
Awesome,
kill
man.
me.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there goes 45 minutes.
Oh, 45 minutes. Okay. Well, hey, we'll be back in.
What else do we
25th.
have? What else do we
Oh, I don't
talk
know.
about?
I am curious for the silly season.
Yeah.
It still entertains me. I want to see if maybe Lando has some kind of early deal.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I want to see what happens at Ferrari.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, obviously, like always, and I don't know who's ready to move. You
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, certainly nobody at Mercedes.
No.
Ferrari.
Well, you say that. Is Lewis signed yet?
I don't know.
I don't think he
I
is.
don't recall that he's signed for 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he is. Ferrari, I want to see what happens with Albon.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's put himself in a very good position, I feel.
Piastri has too.
Piastri absolutely has. And then we'll see what happens with Perez.
I think of all people, I think Piastri is in the best position right now.
For
the
sure.
silly season.
For sure.
Where Red Bull probably doesn't want him because Max will scuttle that.
Yep.
His management will.
Right.
And but a Ferrari could.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
But it's a very small market for Ferrari. It's not a very lucrative market for car sales.
Yeah.
So a Mercedes definitely would. If Hamilton were to go. But who else is there that he would want to drive for? It's like,
No.
I mean,
I think he does. I think Lewis does want to end his career at Red.
you think so?
I do. I don't know why, but
Because he's never said so, right?
No, I don't think he
Ferrari
has,
ever
but-
has uttered come across his lips. you
No, I think he just has a huge respect for guys like Michael and
course,
Fernando,
of course.
and
And Vettel. Vettel went there,
of
you know.
course. Yeah.
And it's a very big challenge,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, they are Formula
And
One
at some point, when you've reached the pinnacle, you look for challenges.
for sure.
You know.
For sure. And that wouldn't taint his legacy at Mercedes one day.
No,
I don't think.
and look at Michael. I mean, Michael went to Mercedes and was nowhere, right? But he had a good time, and It was great for
Did
Mercedes.
some development.
They sold a lot of damn cars for
Oh,
Michael,
no doubt.
you know, racing in Formula One, and
No
Michael
doubt.
knew that,
Yep.
and he was okay with that.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure
he
he
just
was.
loved driving.
Yep. And he taught Nico a bunch, even though Nico knew a lot. But
Yeah, but he taught him a whole lot.
Taught him a
more,
whole
trust
heck
me.
of a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a good relationship between the two of them,
Yep.
like Fernando and Stroll.
Oh yeah.
And Michael, you know, many years ago, when we were starting out our professional careers, we both agreed that if somebody would just pay us to drive, we could care less about the competition.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Didn't mean that we didn't want to compete and be faster than the next guy, but
Yeah.
but really ultimately it came down to how much time do we get driving these cars. That was the key. It was not about winning, it was not about competing, it was not about being famous. It was just we actually talked about some drivers that were just test drivers for Ferrari. You know, we were both like,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be great to drive for Ferrari? Just be a test driver. Just drive all day.
Right.
Just be on their track all day long in Fiorina,
Yep.
and just drive around the track all day.
You could drive road cars.
No,
race
just,
cars.
Just F1.
Yeah, okay, just
no,
F1,
No.
right.
We were like, if we get there,
Yeah.
that would be so great. we wouldn't even have to race one race. And you know, because the driving is just it's something else.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
Awesome.
Enough of that.
What else? Anything?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah.
I think we captured most of it.
Here's to the improved sprint format.
Yes.
Better than the original.
Oh,
2 years,
you know,
right?
yeah, and the only thing I don't necessarily like is that, you know, you kind of locked into Parc Fermé after the first practice, and I think yes, it makes it more unpredictable, but there should be some caveats in it. Like you should be able to, if it goes from a wet weekend to a dry weekend, where you could change the wing settings. You know, like some basic things, not major things, but just basic things.
Sure.
So a McLaren
That's
could
fair.
put their wings back down
Yeah.
and be faster in the straight line and be more
Yeah,
competitive.
especially when you have different
You know.
fuel loads on the
Yeah,
car.
exactly. I know.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert. Liberty Media has done a great job
Sure.
promoting the sport, and they've done a really great job making it more exciing. So
Right.
kudos
Agreed.
to them, no doubt.
Agreed. Well, cool, man. See
All
you 25th. I think.
Golly, that's
August
a whole
25th.
month. All right.
Month.
See you later. Bye.